Hello everybody, welcome back to more Love Bakudan. I do apologize, there's no video on Friday. It's been a very busy, and it will be even busier week this week. But I'm going to try to have a video up. Okay. So, with that said, guess I'll call my parents and see if they're around. Felt so alien without Himiko around, because remember, she got screwed over on the deal, right? She got there, and they were basically like, okay, well, we'll publish the book, but we don't want you to, it's not going to be under your name. We want you to write for somebody else, essentially. They're going to have their name, and they're going to get all the credit. You're going to do all the work. And that's a pretty shit deal. But I could definitely see why someone would take it anyway, just to get their foot in the door, you know, if nothing else. But she was really down. She wanted some time alone, and now, you know, we're going to, like, kind of see if our parents are around and see what they're doing. I'd never felt this way before. Feeling mopey over someone else? That wasn't anything I usually found myself doing. I could see how much of this had profoundly affected Himiko, and I wasn't surprised to see that she didn't know which way to turn or what the hell to do. I felt for her. I really did. And in a way for myself. That would mean that my writing would be taken out of my hands and put into someone else's too. Even though this story wasn't mine to begin with, this was a project Himiko and myself had embarked on together. Have it passed down to someone else just felt wrong. I frowned as I walked toward the street corner and pulled out my cell phone to call what was once my home. Mom, I'm in Tokyo now. Want to meet up? Trip back home was a nice one. It felt wonderful to see my family again. Both of my moms got emotional upon seeing me return, which in turn made me emotional too. There was just something to be said about seeing your parents cry. Like watching something you'd always thought was so strong just crumbling right before your eyes. It settled me down on the sofa and began asking me all different kinds of questions about my life in Akiyama now, about what I've been up to. You know, they were overjoyed when I explained to them just why I was in Tokyo in the first place. They were thrilled that I found somebody that made me so happy. I expected. They asked just why I looked so glum in the first place when things were so good right now. I hadn't realized it, but I felt as glum as I looked. I felt downtrodden on Himiko's behalf, and on mine. What was supposed to be such a great, successful endeavor had become something that had now thrown her into turmoil and myself into one alongside her. I explained to my parents what was going on and to hear their advice. It really helped me. Or what Himiko will make of it. I kept it close to my heart, and I resolved to tell Himiko just about what they'd said, depending. Whatever it was, I'd support her along the road with it. My feet carried me back toward the hotel after my mom had dropped me off, and the cool breeze of the evening in Tokyo's main city enveloped all of my senses. I walked past a few magazine stands, and I saw the latest edition of Soju Leap had announced on the front cover that they had chosen a winner. The audacity of saying, stay tuned for their next issue to see who it was. I rolled my eyes. Yeah, sure. Willingly offering your services for ghostwriting was one thing, but Himiko was tricked into thinking she was going to debut. Awful, really. I walked quickly past the stands and toward the hotel, and I felt nervous. Happy excitement inside my stomach. I hesitated as I stood outside the hotel room door. It had been a few hours now since I'd given Himiko the space she'd asked for to think. I felt a little anxious at the thought of her having made herself upset. I knocked twice on the door and I heard a little noise of alarm come from behind the door. Himiko, it's me. Can I come in? Haruka, of course. Yeah, she's definitely been crying. I placed my palm on the doorknob of the hotel door and turned it to the right as I entered. Hey Himiko, how are you? Leaping up off the bed, I felt a set of arms warmly wrap themselves firmly around the back of my neck, and a familiar body was pressed up against me. As was a set of lips that I'd come to know very well resting on me. Himiko was kissing me, surprisingly forcefully for her, too, and I wrapped my hands around her waist to pull her closer. Kissed for what felt like a lifetime. We didn't say a word, we just kissed. Sometimes, all you have to do. No words needed. Our lips moved against each other softly, languidly, taking in each other's tastes, movements, the rest of each kiss. As we finally broke away, I felt Himiko take my breath along with it. I missed you. Oh. Kimiko smiled at me as she wiped the edges of her eyes beneath her glasses. I stroked the small of her back as she held herself against me. Are you alright? I felt frustrated. Yeah. Kimiko exhaled softly, taking me by the hand as she led us back over to the bed and sighed as we sat down against a soft mattress. Still really can't believe it. I know, me neither. I mean, those fuckers. Come to a decision on what you wanted to do. Kimiko paused, biting her lip as she looked away from me, her head. No. No matter what I come up with in terms of handing it over, it just feels so uncomfortable. I mean, I don't blame you. It's your story. This is like your baby, right? Like giving your child to some other couple. I don't know what they're gonna do with it. Yes, in a way, I poured a lot of love and work into that project. I even made myself sick over it, which I know isn't uncommon in the mangaka world, but it meant something. Miko ran a hand over her face anxiously and sighed. Haruka, I just don't know what to do. Oh. On the one hand, it really would be amazing to see my works in the middle of Sojo Leap. It's so cool, you know, to know that my story was out there to a big audience and we were being paid for our efforts. There would be no shortage of money. We'd get a cut of the merchandising too. Well, you know what? Sometimes it isn't just about the money. If you have to sacrifice too much to get it, not worth it. Really had it all planned out in the meeting I had today. They've already started thinking about products for it? Yeah, and this is a big company too. This is a massive opportunity. That's why I was so happy when they said I'd won, but it wouldn't be mine anymore. I would have no say over where the story went or what they did with it, and I don't like that at all. Feels like it goes against every reason I wanted to do this in the first place. I just don't know what to do. You ever worked with manga magazines before, Himiko? I know you mentioned one about muscles, but yes, twice before. They were very small companies, so the workload wasn't too terrible. There were only a few pages of one-shot stories. Right. So some of my work is out there, and it felt so good just to see my name on it. People talked about me a little, in some niche online circles. Miko trailed off, and the smile with it. She fiddled with the hem of her sweater and looked down away from me. Haruka, what do you think I should do? I don't want to give it up. Turning her deep, dark eyes to look at my own, I looked right back into them with as much understanding. I truly did understand where she was coming from. I sympathized. I really did. It was something she had really worked her heart into. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes briefly. It was time to bring forward that resolve I'd made to tell her what my parents had said regarding this. Frankly, they'd said it was way better than I could have ever hoped to myself. I went to see my parents today. You did? How was it? I did. It was honestly really nice. It was wonderful to see them, especially after everything that's happened. Oh, and they were really happy to hear that I met a lovely girl in Akiyama. Oh my, you told them about us? I did. They were very happy for us. That's nice. I'm glad to hear it. They also gave me some advice on what you should do, because, to be honest, I was completely stumped as well. Miko looked at me in surprise as I continued, and I held her hands tightly into my own. When I first began to talk to them, they were also pretty stuck on what to suggest. One of my moms is an artist, though, and she was the one who gave me the most key advice I could probably have heard to give back to you. Miko hung on my every word, and I continued. Your art, your projects, they're your expression. They're an expression of some part of who you are, and what you want to represent in the world. Whether it's writing, drawing, combination of the two, music, something else altogether. Creativity is an extension of a thought more along the line. And I think giving away something that you feel genuinely connected to and expected to deal with it, I don't think that's right. Haruka. I agree with everything she said. I think that if you were to be paid, If you were to have a little claim in all of the merchandise or whatever, never really be happy to settle on that. So, whilst this is a great opportunity, is it really? You'd be getting paid, sure, everyone, can use some more money, but don't want the recognition and the ability to connect with you. What about the kinds of people this manga would help through a dark time, or would help them relate to characters you... It just doesn't make sense to not have your name on. Honestly, I think if our thing is as good, to get this kind of clout, for like a big public, I bet we could probably find a publisher for it, right? I stroked Himiko's knuckles again, and I could see she was welling up. It was then that I'd realized she'd known all along what she wanted to do. I wanted to hear a reason why she... Himiko, I'm sorry that it had to be. They should just give you the opportunity you asked for. You want it fair and square. But I think short of telling them you want to be the one writing it, you try and look elsewhere for somewhere to get this manga out into the world. Haruka. Himiko took her hands from my own and covered her face with them as she began to cry. Thank you for the words, exactly what I wanted to say. Himiko fell against my shoulder as I wrapped my arms around her, and for a few minutes I just let her cry. I could feel her sorrow. It was so frustrating for me to even have seen this happening to the person that I loved. Really had won her place fair and square in the competition, damn it. Why shouldn't she get to represent herself? I shook my head angrily and placed my hands firmly on her shoulders. Himiko, tomorrow, when we go back there, I'm going to come in with you. And we're going to talk to them about this. Put your foot down. Tell them you want to be the one doing the manga. But what if they reject it outright because of that? Then you haven't lost anything. You weren't going to take the deal anyway. If they were going to take this off of you anyway, what good would it be to lay you down and take it? We need to be firm with them. They were the ones who gave you this opportunity and fished you up in the first place. We need to take it back by force. You're right. Himiko nodded as she wiped her eye and shook her head. I'm sorry, Haruka. I didn't mean to cry. Hey, you don't need to apologize for crying, Himiko. Not ever. Himiko smiled at me as she sniffed, and I handed her a tissue from the box on the knife. Thanks. Don't worry. Tomorrow, we're going to sort this out one way or another. Feeling my nerves, I held Himiko close and thought about just what the right thing to do tomorrow was going to be. Because there was no way we were leaving Tokyo without at least accomplishing a little bit more of Himiko. You worked too hard to see it slip from her hands now. Following morning, the little piece of sunlight streamed through the dark curtains of the hotel. Himiko had fallen asleep on my arm again, as usual. It was becoming a practice I was very fond of, even if I did wake up with a heavier arm in the morning. We didn't have sex last night for the first time in over a week. Honestly, I felt a little like I was ready to explode, but given the situation at hand, I hadn't really thought it would appropriate to jump her bones when she had so much on her mind. She'd fallen asleep before me, and I had woken up before her. I lay with her for a moment, thinking about the things we were going to have to say today, and the potential of having Himiko's dream being snatched out of her grasp for who knew how long. Slipped out from underneath her, gently laying her head on the soft hotel pillow, and slid into the shower as I became lost in my thoughts. Re-emerging, Himiko was now fully dressed and looking at me expectantly as I came out from the bathroom with all my clothes on too. Good morning, sleepyhead. Good morning, Haruka. How'd you sleep? Like a log, honestly, and you? Slept well, sleeping on you. I grinned at the girl before me, who seemed surprisingly calm given the circumstance. Want to go to the offices, or did you want to eat first? To be honest, I'd rather just get this over with. Yeah. I nodded in understanding. Yeah, I don't blame you. Himiko sighed as she walked around the bed and over towards me, and I kissed her forehead as she came in a little closer. Ah. No, I've always loved our height differences. Yeah, me too. It's perfect. I nodded, in her hand in my own, and began to lead her over to the front. Come on, let's get this thing over with and see just where we stand on your... Himiko nodded, and I was very impressed by her courage. She really was something else. After we left the hotel, the two of us had moved on foot very quickly and with a strong sense of urgency like no other. We'd both mentally resolved with what we were going to say. I didn't know what Himiko wanted to get off of her chest. Sorry, I'm yawning. I'm still waking up. But I'd imagine it was very similar to the things I said to her yesterday. The betrayal she felt from having her own place of winnings ripped out from under her. Saw from potentially having to let go of something she'd adored. The option that Soju Leap had provided to her was just not viable, and I was very much looking forward to seeing Himiko put them in their place. Himiko was a shy girl at heart. Her bravado and courage began to wane a little the closer we got to the offices. By the time we'd reached them, I could feel that she was anxious, even as she held my hand. Hey, I'm here with you. I know. We're gonna get this sorted out one way or another. I promise. I promise. Himiko nodded silently, and her glasses reflected up at the building that lay before us, the bustling city of Tokyo. And taking a deep breath, she squeezed my hand and took a step forwards onto the building. Into the building, not onto the building. Inside, much to my surprise, it was just like any other building or office in all of Tokyo that you could imagine. Well, mostly. The entrance was perfectly normal anyway. The normal, unassuming-looking secretary sat behind the counter with a large logo of Soju Leap behind her in bold. Himiko explained who we were and why we were there, and that we were led down the corridor toward an exit that led upstairs. This was a company who was responsible for publishing manga that would go on to become childhood staples for people around the globe. Stories of superpowered characters duking it out, all in their own unique settings and art styles. Even I couldn't miss a Sunday morning episode of Dragon Fighters growing up. Going up the stairs was interesting. Littered all along the walls were posters of their most successful manga series, along with cardboard cutouts of the most popular characters. Corner and you turned to walk into any room. It was colorful, vivid, and gaudy, and I found myself more irritated by the display than charmed. Usually I would have been on the latter. I found myself more annoyed because now I didn't know if those works had really belonged to the people that said they did. Were they products of other people who were now wishing they hadn't given away their stories too? But if even someone as casual about manga as me could identify these characters, it must be a huge company. I grumbled to myself as Himiko pushed open the door to a messy-looking office. Pardon the intrusion. Ah, Kurosu-san, welcome back. You brought a friend? The editor looked over at me with a happy-go-lucky kind of expression, to which I responded darkly. They seemed taken aback by that. I'm her girlfriend. Oh, right, nice to meet you. Yes, come this way. Himiko blushed a little in a fluster at my unimpressed response, and I pushed down that smug smirk I felt in my chest to see. We were led along the messy aisles of the office, the sound of people hard at work at their computers, and in a quiet, professional manner on the phone filled the air. We weaved between all of the busy people towards a smaller office in the back, one that had a window and some blinds over it. As we entered, the editor closed the blinds and closed the door behind her as she looked at the both of us. Please have a seat. Two of us did as we were told and sat down before the large table ahead of us. The editor took a seat behind the surface and clasped her hands together. Alright, Himiko, I take it you're here to give me your answer of what we discussed yesterday? Yes, Himiko wrung her hands together and stared furiously at the ground. I could see that she was desperately trying to work up the courage to tell this woman no. I went back in my chair with my hands in my pockets and looked at the editor expectantly. If I may ask, how common is ghostwriting in the manga industry? How common? Well, I don't know, but it's worked for us in the past many times before. Surprising. The editor narrowed her eyes at me. I narrowed them right back. That's so. Do you have any prior experience within the manga world, miss? Hima. And no, I don't, but I'm the one who helped Himiko write this project of hers. She worked her ass off on it. The editor looked me up and down, trying to size me up in her estimation, and enraged to think she was down on me or so. Well, Mishima-san, with all due respect, this seems far from your area of expertise. Sure, you wouldn't rather just wait outside? No, I'm fine in here, thanks. I was just interested to meet a person who thought it was a good idea to put out a competition. Strenuous, that it made my girlfriend ill for 3 days afterwards. Oh, and then told her they want to take her work off of her. Can't forget that one. don't want to take her work off of her machine. Then we want her to pay her for it. We just want it under a different name. Then why can't I just put it under a pen name? Why does it have to go to someone else altogether? Not their work. Well, you see, we just feel as though it would be best for one of our more long-standing artists to have it. But it's not their work. They didn't draw it. We don't have a working relationship with you, and it would just be easier that way, giving it to someone we already trust. I scoffed, and the editor rolled her eyes at me, but shook her head. I don't understand. Why can't I just build your trust? Is that how it should go? I managed to get 40 pages done in a week. Doesn't that count for something? Mom, have you... Suddenly the door to the office burst open, and a young pretty girl came in with a manuscript in her hand. Himiko gasped, as did I. Those drawings. Hey. My manga. Carl, you idiot. Wait outside. Sorry. Give me that. Himiko leapt out of her seat and I raised my eyebrows as I watched the scene unfolding. The editor looked horribly embarrassed as I turned my gaze back to her with a chuckle. So that's what's going on. All this bullshit about not being able to give Himiko a pen name, and you just wanted it for your kid. It's not. Himiko snatched the wad of papers out of the startled girl's hand and quickly scampered away and closed the door behind her. There was silence for a brief moment, before finally, Himiko began to say what she wanted to say. Editor, I worked so hard on this piece. I worked so hard and I even got my girlfriend involved. I tried my best. I really did. It's always been my dream to be a mangaka. I've dreamt so many times of being published in Stojili. Who wouldn't? This is the biggest magazine around to get your work into, second only by Wild Lion. Rosu-san? But you completely shattered that dream, all because you wanted to steal my work to give to your daughter. The amount of times I'd agonized over whether I could put the story into the world, of whether I had what it took to join the echelons of my favorites. And now I find out this place is nothing more than a fraud. Wait, please, it's not like that. I want nothing more to do with this company. And I'll make sure as many people as possible know about what really goes on here, too. How could you? How many other dreams have you shattered? The editor remained silent, closed her eyes in exasperation. I watched and listened intently as she was really holding her own. I don't want any part in this. I'm retracting my entry into the competition. Himiko. Goodbye. Himiko turned towards the door and rushed out of it with manuscript. The girl had been startled away, had been pressing her ear to the door the entire time, and leapt backwards in surprise at the sudden departure. The editor didn't say a word as I stood up either, and I looked down at her in disgust. She didn't say anything and quickly rushed through the gaudy corridors. I caught up with Himiko. Himiko, wait! Haruka, Himiko's legs eventually came to a halt as soon as she made it out of the front doors of the building. In the cool, crisp air of the morning's atmosphere hit us full in the face. Himiko was crying, I could see that much. I placed my hands on her shoulders as I stood behind her, watching as she tilted her head up to the sky. She held her manuscript shakily in her hands, tightly and preciously, though it were a treasure that she couldn't bear to let go of. I felt her tremble under my touch, and as she turned around, hugging the manuscript close to her chest, I buried her face against me as I held her tight. It's alright, Himiko. This is the end of your dream. Himiko nodded wordlessly, and I could hear the sniffles of disbelief and sorrow coming from her lips as she leaned against me. I kissed her forehead as we stood at the side of the building. There were no words to describe how badly I wanted to fix this for her. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not in any way I knew how, anyway. I was determined to rack my brains and get there somehow for her. Oh, I just didn't know which way to turn. I sighed resignedly and tilted her head to look up at me. Fishing a tissue out of my pocket, I dried her eyes behind her glasses and smiled weakly. Hi, Haruka. Talking about? You did great in there. Seriously. Himiko nodded meekly, and I could see all over her face that she... Thank you. Himiko choked on her words, and my eyes softened as I looked up at her. It must have been really hard for you. was, but I have no regrets. Hey, say we go get a coffee or something at the hotel's restaurant. Clear your mind a little? Himiko nodded slowly, still adjusting to the cacophony of emotions she felt swirling around her. Before she eventually gave me another smile and accepted my invitation. Okay. Feeling a little better? I do, actually. Himiko and I had made our way back into the hotel's bustling restaurant, and I found ourselves a table beside the window to rest for a little while. Himiko's manuscript was placed carefully at her side on the table next to the coffee she'd ordered, and I'd done the same. To be honest, with all the emotional turmoil, even I needed one hell of a coffee. I let out a sigh of relief as the hot liquid slipped down my throat, and Himiko smiled at me as she rested her head on. Our first date was a little like this, wasn't it? Feel nostalgic, is it? Yes, now all we need is a wide selection of cats. I chuckled as Himiko seemed to be feeling a little better as I watched her eyes fall to the manuscript at her side. It'll be alright, you know. Just a building block on the foundation of your life. No, but it's still disappointing. I know. Your hard work will get you where you want to be someday. That's a promise. Himiko grinned at me from behind her glasses and tucked a strand of hair behind her. Making all these promises, so you can keep them. Have I ever laid down before? Good point. Then in that case, I'll entrust all of my fate to you. Hey, I'm not sure I'm that responsible. Excuse me. Himiko and I were a little startled as a short woman wearing a nice jacket walked up to the two of us and peered down at the manuscript and cried, "Ah. Pardon the intrusion, but may I ask if that's your work, miss? The first page looks like an incredible amount of skill went into it." Yes, I'm the one who drew it. Mind if I take a look at it? I raised my eyebrows as I smiled over Himiko, who blushed a little as she handed the stranger first page. The stranger's gaze lit up as they carefully studied the page in question, as though they had an eye for detail. This is brilliant, as I thought. Your skills are very impressive. Thank you. Oh, sorry to be so forward. My name is Kimiko Hirata. I work as a talent scout for a weekly Wildlion magazine. Himiko's ears pricked up at the mention of Soju Leaf's rival magazine. Would you mind if I took this with me to look over for the night? Himiko and I were stunned into silence, and my jaw hung open. Himiko's did the same. What? Oh, don't sound surprised, young lady. Your artwork here is fantastic. We'd love to have a look at the story and see if we can fit it into our publication. You're serious? Here. Himiko rushed around her expensive-looking handbag and pulled out a slip of identification. Sure enough, it had the Chibi Lion logo printed on it, and it said Assistant Editor on the card. Furthermore, inside her bag was a copy of the thick manga magazine. Legitimate. What's an assistant editor like you doing in a place like this? Himiko-san grinned mischievously as she folded her arms. To be honest, we know that Lee puts their would-be mangaka up in this hotel to fluff them up. So I come here to snipe them all. There's been an influx of talented artists moping in this hotel as of late, which is great news for us. Haha. Himiko looked at me with wide eyes and an unsure smile. Haruka? Want me to decide? Himiko laughed as she nodded and turned away shyly, and I turned to Kumiko without a second thought. She'd love to, ironically. We just came from the Soju building. Kumiko exhaled with a disapproving look on her face. Yeah, I take that they didn't meet your general need. They wanted Himiko's work to pass off as the editor's kid, so no, they didn't. You're joking. Nope, I swear that's really happened. Kumiko looked wide-eyed to Himiko, nodded slowly and shyly in response. Kumiko made a noise of disbelief as she shook her head in disgust. Well, I never. I had my suspicions about that place from the beginning, but to hear it firsthand? So, let's hope Wildlion isn't like that either, if you... Kumiko laughed. I made this wise decision to never have children, so you have nothing to worry about there. Adjusting her sunglasses quietly, Kumiko cleared her throat, and both Himiko and I listened as she began to speak. Listen. As it happens, I always keep a contract on me just in case of times like these. Oh. If you're able to meet me down here tomorrow, I can contact my agency tonight, tell them all about you, get you a clear decision on your inclusion in the manga. I can even send them a picture of your artwork. Power of technology, right? Haha! But yes. Would that be alright? I'd hate you to even begin to leave Tokyo without at least seeing what we could offer you instead. Well, I mean, that was a no-brainer decision, right? That would be amazing. Yes, please. Good. I'll be here tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock sharp. Here's a business card if you need anything, or should you change your mind for whatever reason. Kimiko's small handed us a copy of her card with her number on it, and sure enough, at the top it was stamped with the Wild Lion logo. Kimiko and I looked at each other in disbelief. All of the things to happen after such a tragedy just hours ago. Kimiko hastily jotted her name and cell number down on a napkin and handed it over to the kindly editor. Kimiko Kurosu? Pretty name. I won't forget it, don't worry. Thank you so much, Kimiko-san. Don't mention it. I better get going as I'm already running late for something, but I just couldn't resist stopping in here for a cup of coffee to make the best drink. Yeah, it's delicious. Yes. Hey, you two, see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Kumiko-san. Take care. Looking forward to hearing your decision then. Kumiko waved at us excitedly as she turned to walk away, placing her sunglasses on her round face and disappearing out of view. Kumiko turned to face me in disbelief at what had just happened. To be honest, I couldn't quite believe it myself. With luck, that this had blessed her down into our hands at just the right moment. Wow, how incredible. See, I told you I'm good at keeping promises. Wow. Wild Lion. Wild Lion wants my story? I think that's a much better fit for your story, actually. They're a bit more shameless over there. I'll take that as a compliment. I chuckled as Himiko giddily sat in her chair, looking excitedly around her as though the world was once again beautiful. Smiled right back at her. You're beautiful, you know. Haruka. Himiko tucked a strand of hair behind her ear daintily before she stood up from her seat and took me by the hand. Pricking my knuckles with her thumbs and looking down at the floor, Himiko cleared her throat. I want to thank you for everything you've done for me this past little while. Oh, it's alright, Himiko. I'd do anything for you if it made you happy. I just want to say that I love you, Haruka Mishima. Aww. Oh. And Himiko brought her eyes up to look at me when I felt my breath take. I could feel it, the heavy realization that I'd finally found my soulmate. That even through everything, even through all the pain and the heartache that so often came with following someone's dream, I felt my heart smile when I heard Himiko say, "You look so bright when I'm right at your side." I grinned brightly as Himiko's sentimental expression quickly shifted gears to an extremely excited one, and found my heart flutter with the display of excitement. I love you too. Ah. I love you so much. I'm really proud of how you handled yourself today. Huh? I'm so happy. I laughed as Himiko threw her arms around me in a tight embrace, and I smiled from ear to ear at how happy she was. Seriously amazing, Himiko. I'm thrilled for you. I bet you'll get accepted into Wild Lion, no problem. Me too. I feel so good about it. I smiled as Himiko beamed as she turned to me with a twinkle in her dark eyes. I guess you better work out what to do with the rest of the day. I can think of something. Bet you can. Ugh, even now, she knew how to make me melt. Well, even without me being outrageously horny. Yeah, I guess we should read over that contract and spend the rest of the night relaxing, huh? You're right. I can't believe it. Hey, they do say everything happens for a reason. Now, feeling like this even after everything Well, I just can't believe the future has never looked so beautiful before, Haruka. Himiko seemed so genuinely thrilled that it was infectious. I smiled right back at her. Stroking her face with my thumb as she made the noise of delight. Doesn't it just... That night we spent a good portion of it reading over the contract. Felt like Himiko wasn't really taking much of it in, be it through excitement or delirious pleasure. But I knew we'd probably have to look it over with a more discerning eye in the morning. After we got settled in for the evening and fucked most of the night away, Following day came without interruption. So what does this day hold? Well, we're going to find out on the next episode of Love Bakudan. I'll see you then, and have a good day.